Hi Aquarius, welcome to your May 2019 love reading for single people. I'm actually calling it Love in May or something like that. Just seeing if you're down with love or up with love. Let's just see what the cards say. Obviously love can come at any time, can it not? So it's not about trying to limit it to the month of May, but if you've been looking, it'd probably be nice, wouldn't it? This one came out. I'm going to put this one. And, okay. So the heart of the matter is the Ace of Swords. So here I am doing a reading for a swords person, an air sign, like Gemini. I mean, I know I was going to say Aquarius, but Aquarius. I was thinking of the other air signs. Yeah, that's a ticket. Gemini and Libra are other air signs. Maybe this is a person you have a crush on, or just somebody you are, that you, who knows, maybe you'll meet somebody that's an air sign. But this is a card, Aquarius, that deals with seeing things as they really are, seeing the truth of the situation, and you can move forward. You can, start anew because of this. And so when I get this card, I think that perhaps there was some situation that made you not feel like you had the answers. Maybe it felt very murky. It seemed very murky. This is the past position, the Four of Wands, and this is the marriage card or the happy home. Maybe you have always kind of shied away from that lifestyle. What came into my mind was Leave It to Beaver. Okay, so maybe you saw it as some kind of a fantasy that really doesn't exist. Aquarius is a very unconventional sign, so the idea of that white picket fence and all that stuff that we are fed may have seemed to be like oppressive, or you just didn't like the idea of it, and now you can understand that you had not met the right person, or there might have been some things that I don't even know about that have made you like look at things differently. Perhaps you're older, and like when you were younger, you were really into doing what you want when you wanted to do it. And now maybe you're in your late 30s, maybe you're in your 40s, and you're like feeling all of a sudden that time is slipping away and you would like to have that type of relationship. And I think also with the Four of Wands in the past position, it might have been that you thought that was the only version of marriage that there is. So kind of like that cliche may have turned you off, but you realize, hey, I can make it whatever I want it to be. A primary relationship. I don't even have to have kids if I don't want to have kids. I can do things my own way. The higher message is the Six of Wands. This is a card of getting accolades, being seen as successful. I mean, this is about being successful, but this is in the higher position. So, to me, to have this as like kind of a philosophical or spiritual message can mean that maybe for some people, in terms of timing, if you have career matters that are really heating up and you're really doing well, that may just take precedence. And in order to have the kind of relationship that you're looking for, you can't just be that consumed by work that you think that you can have like this amazing relationship that you have to have the time to devote to it. But I think whenever I get this card, even like the upright position, it's like believing that you're deserving of the best in relationships. That's how I always view this card, because this is like somebody who is kind of basking in the glow of receiving recognition. In relationships, to me, this translates as being seen by the other, being acknowledged in a positive way by the other. And I think that a lot of people underestimate the importance of that in terms of how they interact with a partner or a potential partner. I hear a lot of people, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but I have heard people say, in talking about relationships, especially when they broke up, we never even fought, we never had any problems. And my thing is, well, that's kind of a red flag to me. If you never fought, then you were probably overly polite with that person, and you really weren't being real. They weren't being real. And it was kind of like a facade. And maybe, sometimes we are overly polite with somebody because we do have so many differences. Sometimes I think the biggest clashes come up when two people are quite similar, and yet they still have different ways of seeing things, and I don't associate not having any kind of conflicts with being like a great couple. I don't. But perhaps in this case, like with the Six of Wands, this is actually connected with Leo, I believe, and this is your opposite sign. And Leo is warm and, rules, look at the houses that the two of you rule, and rules the fifth house, which is about love but personal love. You're the 11th house, which is kind of love for humanity. But this is like a personal love. And maybe a part of you is also kind of against that type of relationship where it's very specified to one person, and on your end of things, like you have a hard time accepting somebody loving you versus loving somebody else. And having, preferring to love you. And you may prefer to just be detached from that and think that, hey, let's all just, let's not have preferences. But, people do. And if you're not willing to accept that a person really cares about you as an individual, you might push them away. You might be too cold. And that could lead to feeling a sense of frustration. What I do a lot, I think, in these readings, because I notice I'm always getting so deep. I don't mean by profound, but I mean talking, trying to analyze things and things like that, instead of just keeping it more on the surface, is because I believe that by identifying our patterns, we can really change. If we're kind of doing things just by rote, kind of like automatically, how can we change? I mean, we're going to just be like on automatic, and I don't think that you're going to see change with people. But if we are willing to do the work that requires us to look at deeply ingrained patterns and change those patterns, we can shift everything around. I mean, in a big way. So I just want to call attention to that, of why I'm looking at it in this way. And then we have here, as the card that crosses you, the Four of Cups. This kind of goes along with what I just said. So here we have the clouds, and you can interpret the clouds to mean a particular person, the universe. In this particular case, I would look at it more as the universe, like people showing up in your life, but on behalf of the universe, and you're sitting there stone-faced, like indifferent or not impressed. And this is sometimes due to, like I just said, like an unconscious pattern of rejecting the very person who loves you. I could totally see an Aquarius person falling into that pattern of chasing after people who barely show an interest, almost to the point of obsession, and then the people that really show you that they're interested in you, just feeling indifferent towards, not being attracted to them. And the problem with that is that it is very hard to pinpoint. Some people may not see that in themselves, or they may make excuses for it. They may say, I really am not interested in that person. But they always happen to be interested in people who are elusive, are non-committal, whatever, things like that. So just looking at it from that perspective. Also, looking at a tendency to be too critical of another person, judging them for their faults, or your perception of their faults, as a way to kind of keep them at bay and have an excuse why you don't want to be with them and things like that. And even just like having a bad attitude about it, like, maybe you have a certain person in mind, and anybody else you are unwilling to even consider. It's understandable that you may have very strong preferences in this area, but if you are interested in meeting the right person for you, it would be a great idea if you could kind of like just open up your life for anyone who wants to come in. Maybe if there's somebody that you really are attracted to, and you might be waiting for them to leave a relationship or waiting for them to come back from wherever they are, that's understandable. But in the meantime, being willing to explore other avenues. The advice is represented by the King of Cups, learning to master your emotions at the deepest level. I think a lot of Aquarians would say, my emotions are totally mastered. I don't fly off the handle. I don't, if somebody rejects me romantically, I bounce back right away. I don't feel bad about myself. But there's always something kind of like that Four of Cups, where they feel maybe it's flat. They don't feel necessarily too passionate about life. There's a term, dispassionate, which can be actually good, and I think sometimes is associated with the spiritual life or meditation, where you don't get caught up in the drama of life, and that's totally cool. I think that's awesome. But I also think that there can be like a malaise where a person feels cynical or indifferent. Remember that your co-ruler is Saturn, just like the ruler of Capricorn. And that can make some Aquarians cynical and kind of suspicious of the motives of others, feeling that they are doing something for an ulterior motive, or but it's basically pessimistic attitude, and it can involve anything, but in this case we're talking about attitudes towards love. And the unfortunate thing about those kinds of attitudes is that it takes away from the fact that you may be somebody who is really wanting a relationship. So it's kind of like you might have closed yourself in. And again, I was talking about with the Ace of Swords, maybe you did go through a divorce with the Four of Wands, and you did have a happy marriage, and you do have memories of that. Is it with a Leo? Is it with somebody like that? and that you still haven't gotten over it, really. And so it's very hard. That might be why you have the Four of Cups, because you are still kind of trying to get over that loss, and that maybe in some cases betrayal or whatever those challenging emotions are that connect to the ending of a marriage. And so your reaction is, marriage sucks, for lack of a better word, because this happened to me, instead of seeing that there's maybe that wasn't the best choice in the first place. I mean, for some of you, you might have been the problem. But for those of you who feel that you were the one that got blindsided or otherwise felt a sense of rejection, I think it would be something about deception, because if the Ace of Swords is coming up, it's like you realizing what really went down and kind of like maybe accepting what really happened, and admitting that that really happened, and not trying to rewrite history. But maybe it's fairly recent, and recent can even be a year ago, and you're not ready. So you might be watching this thinking you're ready and not really being ready, and that might be the best message I could give to you, is that perhaps you need more time to heal. And for others, this may be simply that you have to examine or re-examine your attitudes towards relationships, how you view them, if you think that they are oppressive, and how can you alter your behavior to send the message to others that you really are open for a long-term relationship. And the King of Cups can be you opening that heart chakra and becoming more caring and getting, like I said, mastering your emotions, but understanding what your emotions are, not being not looking at emotions as getting in the way of anything, but enhancing your life. And the King of Cups can also be a counselor, so you may decide that this is the route that you want to go. And it doesn't have to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It could be a marital therapist. Even if you are divorced, maybe marriage therapists sometimes, marriage counselors, maybe they sometimes deal with people who are trying to get over a divorce. It could be a life coach, where you have a lot of things going. Maybe you have a successful career, but the one area that you feel is lacking is your love life. And you might want to get some inspiration from a life coach who may give you assignments or give you insights into how to kind of change the patterns that have shown up in your life. And the outcome, another king. So this is kings that can be fathers too. The King of Pentacles. Now, in general, the King of Pentacles is great for getting a business loan. This is the dude with all the money. But in a love relationship, King of Pentacles can indicate maybe winding up with somebody who is of the earth element. For you, Taurus is a fixed sign that you may be attracted to. I don't know if you would be. I think out of all of the earth signs, that you, Aquarius, would be attracted to Virgo. Because even though Aquarius and Virgo is in conjunction, I feel like, which is kind of a weird angle, 150-degree angle, I still feel like you have things in common. I think that you both have an analytical side, intellectual side, and I think that you both can approach things rationally. And so it would be great for discussions and things like that. Virgo isn't, out of all the earth signs, is the least materialistic in my opinion, and the least overly ambitious. You know, Virgos want to do a good job. They want to do a perfect job, but they're not necessarily the kind of person like a Capricorn who wants to climb to the top. Virgo is very much into a simple life, and they just want to be of service. They're not necessarily interested in the glory that comes with a certain job title. I think you can appreciate that because of your own kind of personality traits. So that might be the kind of person you'd be interested in. But anyway, the King of Pentacles can indicate this person who is very sensible, down to earth, and also mature, because the king is the highest rank, and very stable. And you may, depending on your background, have had a history with people that are not like that, and it may be a refreshing change of pace. So that's what I have for you, Aquarius. I hope that you receive something of benefit from this reading. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. My website is rainamoonastrology.com. Take care. Bye.